guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel if you're a returning subscriber. Today's video is going to be about Franca Viola, a girl who made history, and I think that her birthday should be a national holiday all over the world. In December of 1965, an armed gang stormed a family home in Sicily and kidnapped a 17-year-old girl, Franca Viola. The leader of the gang was her former fiancé Felipe Melodia, who has spent months stalking and threatening her family. His plan was simple and brutal: abuse her until she agreed to marry him. And under Italian law at the time, if she married her rapist, he would walk free. If she refused, she risked being shunned forever. But instead of giving in, Franca would take him to court, which would shatter an entire cultural system. Franca Viola was born in 1948 in Alcamo, Sicily. Her parents, Bernardo and Vita, were a farmer and a housewife who owned a vineyard. At 15, Franca was briefly engaged to a 23-year-old local man, Felipe Melodia. Early engagements were common in Sicily, but Melodia had mafia ties. He was the nephew of a well-known mobster, Vincenzo Rimi, and he was soon arrested for theft. After that, Franca's father ended the engagement and Melodia disappeared for a while, possibly to Germany. 2 years later, in 1965, Melodia returned to Sicily and discovered that Franca was now engaged to someone else. He wasn't heartbroken, he was angry. To him, Franca belonged to him. She rejected him repeatedly, which only fueled his rage. He threatened her father, her new fiancé Giuseppe, and kept appearing everywhere she went. This stalking escalated until he finally acted. Now let's touch upon the mafia and the culture around Franca Viola to understand her story a bit better. So Sicily in the 1960s was heavily influenced by the mafia, built on power, fear, and violent ideas of masculinity. Local families controlled territories, operated above the law, and punished anyone who crossed them. Police often looked the other way. On top of that, Italian society held deeply traditional views about women. Sexual violence was not seen as a crime against a person, but as a crime against quote-unquote public morale. Under Mussolini's Rocco Code, Article 544, a rapist could erase the crime by marrying his victim, which was also known as reparatory marriage. If the victim refused, she would be labeled as fallen woman, shamed and often unable to marry. Melodia planned to use this law to his advantage the moment he found out that Franca was going to marry someone else. It was the night after Christmas, December 26, 1965. Franca was at home with her mother Vita and her 8-year-old brother Mariano. Her father was out. Around midnight, 12 armed men broke into the house. Their leader was Melodia. Franca fought back. She was beaten and dragged from home. Her mother was also beaten. Mariano clung to his sister and was kidnapped with her. Vita, the mother, chased the car and was dragged along the road before it sped away. Hours later, little Mariano was found wandering outside town. Melodia took Franca to a farmhouse belonging to his sister. There, he raped her repeatedly, beat her, and denied her food and water for at least the first 3 days. He mocked her, assuming he could force her into marriage and erase the crime. Franca's family searched desperately. Some local police were tied to the mafia and stayed out of it, but the Carabinieri, Italy's military police, took action and organized a dragnet. On December 31st, Melodia contacted Franca's father to begin the quote-unquote passeata, which was the negotiation for a reparatory marriage. The police told Bernardo to pretend to cooperate so they could finally find where Franca was being held. And this plan worked. On January the 2nd of 1966, 8 days after Franca was kidnapped, she was rescued and the gang was arrested. Bernardo, the father, asked his daughter Franca if she wanted to marry Melodia. She refused. She said no. And he supported her, something incredibly rare for the time, because I suppose that if you were raped back in the day in Italy, your family should be ashamed. Who invented these laws? I assume it was someone who hated women and who liked to rape them, in my opinion, allegedly. Franca sued Melodia for kidnapping and rape. It was the first time in Italian history that a woman publicly refused a reparatory marriage. Her family backed her. as they should, but the community did not. Can you imagine you fighting for justice for what's been done to you, for someone raping you? You want them to go to prison, and your community says, no, that's not the right thing to do. I don't want to live in a community like that. If I were Franca, I would have just left Italy and went somewhere else. The family of Franca was ostracized and endured threats. Eventually, their farmhouse and vineyard were burnt down. However, her family persisted and they kept pushing forward. The trial began on December 9th, 1966 and lasted for 9 days, drawing huge media attention. Melodia's lawyers painted him as a lovesick man and portrayed the father of Franca as a tyrannical father. Wow, he's tyrannical for not wanting his daughter to marry a rapist. In my opinion, he's also at fault here a little bit because he allowed his daughter to be engaged in the first place to someone with ties to the mafia. And also, she was only 15. Just leave the poor girl alone. She will get married when she's older if she wants. Franca testified against that narrative. Melodia was finally found guilty and sentenced to 11 years in prison, which in my opinion was not enough. 7 of his accomplices received 4 years each. What Franca did shocked Italy. The media celebrated her bravery, but cultural attitudes lagged. Articles praised her courage, but still called her, quote-unquote, destined to live as a spinster. A TV show asked men if they would marry someone like Franca, and all of them said that yes, she was brave, but they would not marry someone like her. Wow. I wouldn't want to marry a man with such opinions as well. What is stopping you from marrying her? Because she was raped? You should seriously question all your opinions and all your beliefs if you have such views on women and rape and life in general. Like, you're probably, I'm not a feminist, but you're probably a woman hater. On the other hand, women in Italy were inspired. In the year after her case, at least 4 more Sicilian women refused reparatory marriages. So a shift had begun, all thanks to Franca's bravery. In 1968, Franca married her childhood friend and supporter throughout the years, Giuseppe Ruisi. Italy cheered for them and they received gifts from the president and even met the Pope. They went on to have 3 kids. In 1970, a film about her story, The Most Beautiful Wife, was released. Melodia, after serving his sentence, was banished from Sicily. Yes, he was killed in a mafia-style assassination in 1978. So you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. I'm not happy that he was killed, but I kind of am because he got himself into that line of work, quote unquote work, and he was killed by what he, I suppose, loved doing. Yeah. And I hope he was given what he deserved in prison throughout those 11 years, if you know what I mean. Article 544 was abolished in 1981, and only in 1996 did Italy finally redefine sexual violence as a crime against a person and not, quote-unquote, public morality. That was 3 years after I was born. I was born in 1993, and they changed the law that required, in a way, for Franca to marry her rapist only 3 years after I was born. So that was not very recent, but kind of recent. I know I'm getting old. Still, it was not a long time ago, but I'm glad that it's not existing anymore. And I admire Franca for her bravery. In her place, I would have done the same. What would you have done? Share in the comments below if you have heard of this story of this amazing, beautiful, and brave lady. She looks like my mother. Thank you for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, share if you want, and see you in my next one. Bye.